Listen. Do you hear that? It's quiet. The quiet before the storm. Y'all, what is about to unfold and enter into your ears and brain over the next, I don't know how long this episode's going to be. It might be like a 2-hour long episode because there's so much crazy, mind-blowing, deep, terrifying, beautiful, so much amazing stuff to cover here. Guys, this is the flagship episode. This is the pivot point in my entire journey. If you are only to listen to one episode of this entire series, it is this episode. Now, that being said, I want to tell everyone that this is a serial podcast. And if you want to get the full, picture of everything, you need to go back and start with the very first episode and listen to them, successively to this point. And, I'm actually not going to give an introduction for those who didn't listen to the Prelude episode. We're not going to do that this time. This time I'm going to give like the tiniest of tiny introductions to someone who's just joining for the first time on this episode. And I'll make it quick, I promise. Y'all, so I was in a deep, dark place, depressed, nihilistic, sometimes even on the verge of suicide, suicidal for 20 years, the last 12 of which have been particularly intense. I was on the wrong path and I was going further down and deeper down that wrong path, and it was getting bad. And I met someone who changed my life, and I wanted to get better for them. Did all the therapies and medications you could possibly imagine. They didn't work. So I did some research and I found that psychedelics is a rifle shot to health. Boom. That's it. That's the only, introduction that I'm going to give. Because we got to jump in on this one. There's a lot to unpack. And y'all, this one is freaking intense. And it's long. It's going to be about 2 hours, okay? You can think of it as like the Lawrence of Arabia of podcast episodes. Don't get me wrong. There's some like hardcore history kind of episodes that are like 6 hours long or something. So it's not that bad. But it's 2 hours and it's very intense. So, and just exactly like Lawrence of Arabia, I'm actually going to put an intermission in here because I think that you'll need it. It's a lot to take in one session, and you'll definitely need a break. And so I'm going to put an intermission in there. I thought about breaking this into 2 episodes, but I don't like the concept of there being 2 parts of an answer, right? It's like this episode is called The Answer. It's not The Answer Part 1 and The Answer Part 2. This is The Answer. So I'm going to give you all of it at once. A couple other things to talk about, a couple warnings. Just like in episode 3, the side effects of ayahuasca are prominent in this episode. There's going to be a lot of poop talk, right? I don't like it. I'm sorry, but it is what it is. We're all human. Let's deal with it. The other thing is there's a chunk of the podcast that deals with a rather disturbing historical event. Now, I want to keep this in the context and frame of a historical event. I'm not going to make any commentary or any kind of political statement or anything like that about the current state. Not touching that with a 10-foot pole. You'll understand what I'm talking about when you hear it. So yeah, no, not trying to make any political statements here. Let's jump in and let's listen to what happened. Get ready, y'all. It's intense.
Welcome to my journey through the Pantheos. Trip 5. The Answer.
Roger. Steve. We got a good picture of Steve. Fireflies. We're still looking at it.
I was strolling on the moon one day.
Roger roll, Discovery.
So we're gonna get started, y'all. We're gonna get started on the 5th trip. So how do I get started? So basic introduction kind of stuff here, very standard stuff. The person interviewing me
Hello.
is actually my old lady's brother.
I'm so happy to be here.
He interviewed me on the trip number 3 episode. He was one of the 2 people in there.
I think that's happened to me before.
Yes, he suffers from IBS.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So they're brothers, they're twins, and he's the only one interviewing me on this one.
This is how I'm going to talk the entire time in my NPR voice.
Dude, your voice sounds way better than mine. So we do some catching up, a little goofing around even. Oh, it's all you can eat gnocchi tonight.
Where?
Yeah, at Piola. I legitimately have a recurring calendar invite for the 29th of every month is all you can eat gnocchi at Piola. Guys, it's delicious. It's delicious. He had some clarifying questions about the last trip that I went on, so we answered a few of those.
Do you guys know what happened? Why she thought she couldn't read, just on random?
And again, you guys have already heard all that with the prelude and the beginning of this episode, so we're skipping that. We also had our hands full with some distractions here and there. But nonetheless, we got back on track and we charged right into the content. If you're still with us, hang in. So I decided, okay, I'm going back in. Even though I swore to my girlfriend that I wouldn't do it again, I didn't get the answers that I was looking for. And so I still had, let me think. Did I? No, I bought a new batch. That's what happened. I bought a new batch of ayahuasca and I got it. And this time I did something a little different is, the last time that I had a really intense experience, it was I ate a full meal, and it launched me the farthest I've ever been launched to this day, actually. And they say that corn chips is a good food to eat that releases the DMT. Like you do 3 ounces of ayahuasca, you wait 30 minutes, you do another 3 ounces, and then you wait 30 minutes, and then you start eating corn chips, and then that apparently releases a bunch of DMT into your system, and they're not joking, like it works. And but corn chips didn't really do it for me, and it's something. I mean, it's just like some kind of biochemistry kind of thing. I don't know. For me, it was an apple that worked, and so I got an apple. I sat down. I did my same routine that I always do. Went downstairs. I told my girlfriend, like, hey, monitor me on this security camera. Only come in and interfere if I am punching holes in the wall or like hurting myself in some way. If I'm yelling and screaming and flailing around, like even then, don't come in. Only do that if I'm begging for you to help me or I'm causing harm or damage. And so I'm set up. I turn my music on. I do my routine. I do this time. I got specific instructions from the ayahuasca people that they're like, to really. Everyone's different on how they trip, and they were like, okay, you're one of these people where you need to do it in 15-minute bursts instead of 30-minute bursts. And so I was like, okay, so I did 3 ounces of ayahuasca. I waited 15 minutes. I did another 3 ounces, and then I waited 30 minutes and ate an apple. And dude, I will never forget looking at the apple. An apple in its regular form is semi-symmetrical, right? But when you take a bite into an apple or several bites, it's now asymmetric, right? Because you've taken a bite out of it, or several. Even with several bites taken out of the apple, it became a perfectly symmetrical, beautiful. Even the little bite marks had a reflection on the other side of the apple that was beautiful. And it formed like this fractal landscape. If I would have continued to just look at that apple, I could have gotten lost in that apple and just dived into the apple. That's how it felt. Like it was amazing. I'm just sitting there looking at this apple, and it's starting to hit hard. I was like, okay, before I even ate the apple, I started. Your field of view expands. You start getting all of these really crazy, like deep thoughts. I always equate it to like having every thought that you could possibly have in your entire life in one moment. It's kind of like that. So that's leading into the apple, and then you eat the apple, and then that's when you see that symmetrical stuff. When you start seeing symmetrical fractal kind of stuff, you're it's just like Yeah, it's like strap in, you know. Very much like the Inferno trip, I saw a lot of the same stuff where things started becoming unrecognizable, like the apple just shape shifted into another shape, and then a cartoon, and then a painting of it wasn't an apple anymore, and everything in the room started doing that too. But for whatever reason, this time I didn't freak out about it. Like, I was like, okay, I've seen this before. There's no need to freak out. Let me just take this as it comes. So what happens in these trips, specifically when you're listening to music, is for whatever reason, the music will coincide like perfectly with your trip. And it's like, what I mean by that is there's a song that I always play. It's by I wouldn't even call it a band. It's a guy that makes like electronica kind of music. So this song, it swells, like it's like a pulsing, like kind of thing. And every time it went, there's a fractal pattern associated with it that coincides in the trip. And it starts off small, and with each pulse, when the pulse ends, it shrinks, and when the next pulse hits, it gets bigger than it was before, and it slowly starts invading the entire room. And it's really a beautiful pattern, you know. Like I said, fractal. Everything everything in the room becomes that pattern. It's a fractal, beautiful pattern. And the colors are, you know, there's purples, and then there's beige, or like mother of pearl, kind of off-white kind of thing, and some really dark greens. But in the very middle of that is a little filament of black. And each time that the song pulsed and the fractal pattern pulsed, that blackness, that little filament, got bigger. And it started to consume more of the fractal pattern, and therefore more of the room. Until that blackness kind of took over everything and kind of broke away from the fractal patterns and became this dark, like soupy, like cloud that kind of took over the room. And eventually, like on the 25th pulse or whatever, the room was just black. With the exception of the furthest, like topmost corner, like diagonal from me, and the top right corner of the room, there is a beautiful light. It's the same light that I've seen on several trips. It's like a swirling vortex of fractal orangish love. So even though I didn't see like the same goddess figure that I've always saw before, I instantly knew that it was still that same entity, just in a different form. I instantly recognized it as a divine presence. Basically, it was calming, comforting, forgiving, welcoming, accepting, all you know, that beautiful God presence.
Did it feel like it was God or a God or something entirely different?
Totally straight up God. But remember that while this is going on, it's up in the furthest corner of the room from me, diagonally and up. And I am, meanwhile, being overrun by this blackness that has enveloped and invaded the room, and is now enveloped me. There was a clear divide in the room. Top right corner, light. My area, black. Top right corner, good. Down the left corner where I am, evil. Very clear demarcation there. Once that black cloud kind of enveloped and got like basically right in my face, I started seeing those same shapes and patterns. The exact same shapes and colors. Now, there was something very particular about these patterns that was very strange. The thing about these shapes were they looked cool-ish, and the reason why I say they look cool-ish is because there was something inherently displeasing about these shapes and these patterns. They looked cool, but it was almost like the biggest asshole you've ever known in your entire life trying to be nice to you. Yeah. If the person you hated the most in the world painted you a beautiful painting and gave it to you and was like, here you go, man, this is for you. I hope you like it.
So the overall feeling was, I don't like this.
Yes.
Okay.
And so, but it was trying to get you to like it. Like it was trying to show you, look how cool this is, you know?
I got you.
So those unpleasant but coolish looking shapes eventually got like right up in my face and basically tried to grab me.
So you felt like something was trying to pull
Yes.
towards it.
Yes. Yeah. Something was like these shapes were trying to grab me and pull me in. And I resisted again because, you know, like, again, they're unpleasant. And when I resisted, these shapes responded by moving slightly faster in like bursts. Like it was a response. Like when I kind of like a playful, almost flirty manner. Like it wasn't like it was like a reflexive, like ooh, you know, it was almost like, oh man, I'm just joking around, you know, like come on, you know.
Like the douchebag was trying to, like,
Yeah.
hey, I'm especially serious.
Yeah, exactly. Just like that. And so that's how it responded. Kind of in a playful, but here's the very interesting aspect of this. Kind of playful, but also flirty manner. It was about then when I saw something moving behind those shapes. And what I can tell you is imagine black construction paper, and imagine shapes cut into those paper, and imagine someone standing behind that paper moving around, and it was this wispy white kind of specter, kind of like presence there, and it was flowing behind those shapes, and it started to. This is going to sound crazy as hell. It started to seduce me sexually. No joke. Seduce me. And how it seduced me, dude, it was creepy. It was whispering in the best, like, Demi Moore, like, sexy, seductive voice that it could muster. It got right in my ear, and it started, like, whispering these sexual, come down. It was saying this, but it wasn't saying this in English. It was saying this in basically tongues.
But you knew what.
Yeah, the intentions were very clear. It was trying to sexually seduce me. It was basically telling me, like, come in here and have some raunchy fun. And the more it tried to seduce me, the more sickening and disgusting the feeling overall got. And so I was repulsed by this. And God, meanwhile, that glowy, like whitish, yellowish ball of energy and love in the topmost corner was still up there, you know, and I could see him and I could feel him still. So right about that time, the room really started to really get divided into factions of good and evil. Like where I was, the far bottom left corner was dark and evil and nasty and slimy and disgusting. And the top right corner was like everything that was good and awesome and amazing and just beautiful. And that's where I wanted to be. I did not want to be being seduced by this like evil, sleazy, nasty presence. So I was basically stuck in this. It became like this soupy, like swamp. So I was stuck in that morass. You know, it was like a bog. of what was becoming. It was becoming more and more evil as time ticked away there, and eventually I started spiraling down, just like I did in a few trips ago. I started spiraling down those in those shapes down into the void. And the exact same thing that happened with the purple hell. Yes. Yep. I basically felt like I was dying. And I cannot explain what I saw when I was going in there. Like, there are times when you trip where you see amazing and or messed up, like fucked up stuff, but you cannot describe what you saw. I cannot tell you what I saw there.
Is it something like where you could draw it, or is it like it's like a synesthesia of emotion and visual and sound? Like it's just a.
That's it.
Okay, so it's just like you just can't. It'd be like describe a sound to someone who's deaf.
Yes, exactly. Synesthesia is the best example that I'm glad you brought that word up. It was a synesthesia experience, and it was visual. No, it was everything. It was visual. All my senses at once, and it was absolutely hellish. But I can't tell you what I saw. I have no idea how to describe it. No idea. All I can tell you is that it was fucked up. Like it was not cool. It was terrifying, and it was really not cool. like that's all I can tell you. So I was spiraling down and down into that void, and I felt like I was dying, very much like that one trip. Now at that moment, I'm literally clawing at my face. Like the things that I'm seeing, it's so terrifying that I want to rip my eyes out, and I'm clawing at my eyes and my face. I have got to try my best to not claw my eyes out. Right at that moment, I felt myself drop down. The room turned into this, basically a slide, like a water slide, almost like a really steep water slide. And I went way deep down into the void. And I was so scared, because the stuff that I had already seen in that first level of hell was, dude, I don't want to ever see that shit again. And now I'm going deeper. And I start falling down this void, and I'm falling, and there's no end in sight. And then I land softly, gently, perfectly, beautifully in the bosom of God. Dude, right in the bed thing that I had made for myself, I had landed in the palm of God, essentially. And he set me down gently and back down onto the bed. He is now sitting right above me, looking me in the face. And again, this is one of those things where I can't tell you what I saw. Like, I knew it was God. What I saw was absolutely one of the most beautiful things that I've ever seen in my entire life, but I have no descriptor to put on it. So God basically had rescued me. He had saved me. He had given me a soft landing from that hell. Right back down in his palm, saying, "It's okay. You're back, and I love you." When I landed there and I looked him in the face, I started cheering, like no joke, like loud hurrahs and yays, and like, I did it. I kept yelling, I did it. I did. Like this was a major accomplishment for me. I not only, didn't shit myself, which was one of my biggest goals. I didn't want to shit myself. I had the balls to stick with a bad trip and just write it down. And I didn't try to run for the toilet, or I didn't try to
escape.
Yeah.
Just face it head on.
Yeah, I was like, we're doing this. We're going in, and it took me all the way down, and I landed on God's hand, man, and I was so thrilled and happy and elated to be back and safe and be in the grace of God, and I was cheering, and then I kept saying thank you to God. I was like, thank you for rescuing me. Thank you so much. Thank you. And the more I said thank you, the more emotional I got, and that's when it all hit me. And I'm kind of getting emotional right now talking about it. The struggles that I've went through, not only in life but in those past few months to get to that point, it was such a major accomplishment, and God let me know that I did it, and I started crying like a baby. Like all of my struggles leading up to that point all culminated in that moment, and I just let loose, man. I was sobbing like the biggest baby you've ever seen in your entire life. It was a beautiful moment, and there was no communication back at me at this point. God was just looking at me. I wanted it to talk back, but it didn't. It was just kind of staring at me. And no joke, I'm not bullshitting you. I looked God in the face and I said, "Thank you so much. This was awesome. I'm good now." And then it gets better. It gets better. I literally told God, I said, "Your work here is done." The presumption.
Condescending to God.
Yeah. and so I'm all like, this was awesome. You're I'm cured. I'm like, you're done. I was like, you know, like your work here is done. And then I look God in the face and I say, "Hey, this has been great. This has been awesome. But legit, I really do need to take a poo right now, like bad, because you know those side effects are still there, man."
I was wondering about that.
Yeah, the nausea and the diarrhea is like still there, big time. So I stumble my way into the restroom and I sit down and I blast off, right? And I don't mean in a psychedelic sense. Yeah. And dude, I will never forget this, man. I'm sitting there. Everything looks normal. Like, by all accounts, I think I'm done with my trip. Like, everything looks normal. I don't see any psychedelics kind of effects anywhere. So I was on the toilet for about 45 seconds, and I saw like a shimmery, like rainbow colored, like shine to everything in the bathroom. And sparkles also, like just these little sparkles, you know. It was very dreamlike, and everything had a perfect like symmetry to it. Like even like asymmetrical objects had a symmetry to it, a beautiful symmetry. Much like that black fog progressed and enveloped the room, this beautiful rainbow, like shimmery fabric eventually crept into the room and enveloped everything. To me, it was like the outer wings of that angel, like goddess figure that I've always seen. The side of it entered the restroom and coated everything in that fabric, and then you saw the center of it materialize through the door, and it just entered the room. And so I'm looking at the center of this creature, that's this angel, God is the only way I can describe it. And again, this is one of those things where I cannot tell you what it looked like. I cannot tell you. I know what everything else looked like. I can't tell you what it itself looked like. But I remember it being beautiful, loving, and forgiving, motherly presence, like motherly, like being in the womb. It was like something you have always known your entire life. But again, I can't even begin to describe what I saw. No way. There's no way. And so when it entered, there was like very much a, "Oh, hey, how you doing?" kind of vibe to it. It's as if, like, you know, one of our Aggie buddies we hadn't seen for like 10 years. They just pop back into your life. Like you meet them at a restaurant and you just pick right up on the same conversation that you left off 10 years ago. No joke. It was like it came in and was like, hey, what's up, bro? And like that's the feeling you got from it. It was amazing. And I remember looking at it because I instantly knew what it was. I knew that was God. And I apologized for my state. I mean, I'm half naked on the toilet with my underwear around my ankles, shitting my brains out. and I look at God and I say, hey, I'm so sorry. I kept apologizing over and over to it, and God basically told me in thoughts, he was basically like, and here's, before I start getting into the conversation with God, let me tell you that he wasn't communicating in English to me. He was communicating in thoughts, but those thoughts were so clear and perfect that it basically was English. Like it was not something that you cannot mistake it for your own thoughts at all. Like I was seeing this thing and it was telling me stuff. Like there's no way that I was thinking these thoughts in my head and it was just me talking to myself. There's no way. Yeah, you were getting responses and it was clear that it wasn't you, you know? And so I looked at God and I said, hey, look, I'm really sorry for my current state. I don't want to be like this in front of you. And he looked at me and he said, you think I care about that? And that's when I realized that God loves poo-poo humor. Yes, he does. Because you know what he did? I couldn't control this. He made me shit again right there. So he said, you think I care about that? And I instantly understood my folly. And then I accidentally let out a massive squirt that was literally induced by God. Like, seriously. Like, yeah. He literally did that to lighten the mood. Like I think he knew that I went through such a hellish experience and that I was kind of like trying to be too proper in front of him. And he was basically like, you think I care? Watch this, you know, and made me shit myself. And so like instantly it became it's like, oh, okay, you're a bro. Yeah. And yeah, like I don't have to hold back with you, you know, and it was a beautiful gesture because he was just like, dude, like, come on, you know, seriously, I had the thought in the moment, could it be that God literally likes poo-poo humor? And it goes, made me squirt again, and it was like, yes, I do, and so which, you know, made me laugh even harder, and so like just imagine that the creator of me and all I see and the entire universe loves a good poop joke. It's just amazing. Yeah, exactly. And about that time, though, is when things started kind of getting a little bit more interesting. The room started to darken, and it became menacing. That black fog that I had described before started to kind of leach its way back into the room. And I felt myself becoming sick. There was this menacing presence, and I felt myself becoming sick. I felt, you know, like that sickening miasma, you know, that I mentioned, and I began to see that same inferno-like shape-shifting phenomenon that I'd seen on my inferno trip. And I started to get scared, but then I remembered that I faced the full brunt of that earlier, and with me and God, we had conquered that. You know, I had conquered that with God's help. And so I became like super confident in the moment, and I thought to myself, I got this. This is not the boss of me. And I remember, like an idiot, like saying, like, with utter confidence, I was like, in my mind, I can think this thing away. And I remember looking at God and saying, hey, watch this. And I snapped my fingers, and in my mind, I was like, when I snapped my fingers, it's all gonna go away. It did not go away. And I snapped my fingers and it got worse. And eventually God stepped in. It's in the far left corner of the bathroom. It stepped in and grabbed that evil cloud. and like quarantined it off to the side, on the right side of the bathroom. So now again we have this clear demarcation of left side of the bathroom is light and beauty and love. Right side of the bathroom is darkness and evil and despair and sickness and just bad on the right side of the restroom. And so, but God had came in and pushed it over there. And so right about then, I was just like, okay, well, thank you. I look over to God and I see this very clear image of a dearly departed loved one, someone who had passed away. Vivid image. It was clear that it was him, and he was wrapped in that same like shimmery, like rainbow, like wrapper that was over everything. It was very clear that he was enveloped in the bosom of God. And right when I got this huge surge of love from him to me and me to him, and then God to both of us, like a triangulation of just love and awesomeness. And right at the peak of that evil dark cloud crept over. And consumed my loved one, my dearly departed loved one that was there. Started to wrap him up in that evil cloak. What I interpreted from that is that my loved one who passed away, that I loved so much, is evil. And I got pissed off. Like, I looked at God and I said, no, 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 no. I was like, you cannot tell me right now that this awesome person, this amazingly awesome person was evil. I do not buy that for 1 second. Get out of here. He said, you're right. He wasn't evil. But evil can consume anyone if you let it. And I said, what? It's like, what the heck are you talking about? Because keep in mind, like, I wrote a paper in college completely against the nature of evil. Like, I thought that nature or that evil is just survival. Like, evil is just people trying to survive, and it's like a byproduct of survival and stuff. And so I was like, what do you mean? That evil can consume someone. And so I asked God, I was like, how does someone get overrun with evil as you claim? And it replied by saying, very, very ridiculously easily. All it takes is basically the tiniest of tiny channels to snake its way into you and get a foothold, basically. And it's kind of like, think of it like a flint spark igniting some kindle underneath an enormous pile of like gasoline-soaked wood, like a barn full of hay, everything soaked in gasoline, and it's ready to ignite. And there's a little spark. There's a tiny little spark that starts it, and that's kind of the message it conveyed to me. And
Sounds straight from the Bible.
Yeah.
Replace the devil with evil.
Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah. So a couple examples is the concept of an acquired taste. Think about this for a second. Think about the first time you ever tasted beer. Disgusting, am I right? After a while, you get used to the taste of beer and you grow to like it, but never forget that it is disgusting. It always has been. And you get accustomed to liking it for some reason. Think about this. The same way that those shapes were trying to be cool, and they were like, look how cool this is, but it's utterly disgusting. Eventually, I could see myself, if I'm hanging around those shapes long enough, that I could be like, that's actually kind of cool. Let me look at that further. And next thing you know, I get swallowed, Curious as I am, I began to ask questions, to God about, okay, so I get it. I understand that now. Like, these little channels can start a whole, just lifetime of misery that affects not only you, but other people. And so I began to ask, I was like, okay, so So evil can basically come in and overrun you. What is its goal? What is evil's purpose? And God basically told me, he said, I could tell you, but you would never understand. Your mind could never comprehend what I would tell you. Don't even bother using your logic to try to understand this. And I said, this is where.
Oh man, like you're a hubris again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and he goes, don't even bother using your. I'm using this word. He didn't use this word, but I'm using this. It's like, don't bother using your puny logic to try to grasp this. It's not. Leave this to me. That's what he said. And I said, okay. I was like, point taken. I don't presume to try to think on your level. I was like, okay, fair enough. And then, on the very next breath, I said, but wait a second. and I started diving into logically why I can't use my logic to think through it. And so I go, but wait a second. Why is it that I can't even begin to use my And then as I'm saying these words, I realize that I don't have control of what I'm saying. God is speaking these words for me. And he's playing a joke on me. And the joke was, he just told me, don't use your logic to think through this. And then I responded by saying, I go, you're 1,000% right. I'm not even going to presume to think on your level, but, and then I start going down this rabbit hole of logic. And then I realize in the moment that I am having just agreed with God that I am not going to use my logic to think through this problem. I start using my logic to think through that. Yeah. I started thinking about why I couldn't think about that. And it was as I'm speaking those words, I realized I couldn't control what I was saying, and it was God saying this as a joke. And I stopped myself. I was like, wait. I was like, wait. Are you doing this right now? I was like, is this a joke you're pulling on me right now? Because it's great. And God looked at me and he basically shook his head yes. He's like, yep. And I was like, that is freaking, and I started cracking up so hard, dude. And here's the thing. I laughed and God laughed. I saw God laugh. And God laughs, and it's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. He laughs in explosions of shapes and colors and warmth and love. But here's the thing. It's unmistakable laughter. It has the same rhythm of laugh. It's like ha ha ha. It's like these boom 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 boom. It's like fireworks. And I sat there and had a laugh with God. I mean, can you imagine that? I sat there and laughed with God. And
how are you gonna top that?
Yeah, exactly. How the hell do you top that? So I'm laughing with God. I'm cracking up, and I'm telling you, like, I can't stop laughing. It was so funny. It was like with God in the moment. It was the funniest thing I've ever experienced in my entire life. And it's at the point God keeps jabbing and reminding me of the joke that he just pulled on me. And I'm not joking when I say it was as if he was tickling me. Like imagine being held down and tickled by God. Like you're like stop. Like you're begging for God to stop. I was seriously begging, almost for my life, for God to stop jabbing me with this. He kept reminding me, and it was so funny. It was like being tickled, and I was like, would you please stop? I was like, please stop. Like this is, And then he stopped, and he backed off a little bit. And he goes, you're a jokester, right? Like you love jokes, right? And I go, yes, I do. I was like, I love jokes, and that was a good one. That was a really good one. You got me. I was like, you got me. And he said, dude. Here's the thing, like God will take you, he will bring you to this peak, and then he'll hit you with something that just cripples you. And he, right after that beautiful fun moment, he goes, He's like, you like jokes? And I was like, yes, I love jokes. And he goes, I know you do. And he goes, I will have you know that that's what life is. And I go, what? And he goes, life is a joke. And let me tell you, you know how much I love jokes. I have 100 jokes saved in my phone for me to pull out and remember. I already remember about a 200, and I have another 100 that I cycle through on my. Like, I love jokes are just my favorite thing, and it's one of my favorite things in life. And God knew that, and it looked me in the face and it said, life is a joke. Now I see your face. So yeah, I see that very same look that you have in your face is my exact thought. So right now, it's absurd. It's absolutely absurd for the maker of the universe to look at you with a straight face. And that's what he did. He wasn't laughing anymore. He looked at me with a straight face and he said, life is a joke. And I sat back and I recoiled and I was like, no. I was like, I do not buy that for 1 second. This is the only moment, or sorry, this is one of like 3 moments, but this is the most powerful moment of me vehemently disagreeing with God and saying like, that is bullshit. Like in my head, I didn't say bullshit to him, but I was like, I do not buy that for 1 second. And I'm already like coiled, like ready to bash God over the head with the trite argument of, how can you look at me with a straight face and say that life is a joke when you have 3-year-old babies dying of leukemia? When you have people that have been kidnapped by cartels and they're getting their heads chopped off with chainsaws in front of their own children. You know, it's like, how can you look at me and I was getting pissed off, and I was like, how can you tell me that life is a joke? And it said whoa, let me explain. And I was literally talking a little exchange with him at this point. I was like, he was like, well, let me explain. And I was like, yes, explain. And I was like, I looked at God and I said, build your case. Yeah. I looked God in the face and I said, build your case.
You're essentially waiting for him to say something that you know is wrong and you jump on it as soon as he says it.
Exactly. I'm ready. Like, I'm ready to be like, no, I already know he's wrong. And at this point, I'm like, this psychedelic shit is not working, because there is no fucking way that anything that comes out of this thing's mouth is going to convince me that life is a joke. No way. And dude, it laid the most beautiful argument on me. It was the most concise and cogent argument that I've ever heard in my entire life. And by the end of it, it was only about like a 30-second description. And by the end of that 30 seconds, I went from being coiled and ready to goon hand God. Yeah. I went from that to, in 30 seconds of him explaining, crying with my jaw on the ground and being utterly convinced. And when he was done talking, I remember looking at him and saying, of course it is. Of course it is. Like, I was like everything in my life, everything was a joke, but a beautiful joke. It's that word joke is actually a beautiful word when you think of it in the context of what it was trying to say. And what it was trying to tell me is that so the basis of his argument was as follows. He says, so hey, think about what a joke is. It's a funny, sometimes ironic, metaphoric twist on something otherwise ordinary, right? Will we agree?
Yeah.
Well, haven't you noticed that just about everything you encounter in life has that same motif? Doesn't everything seem to have an ironic, metaphorical poetry to it? And automatically I started thinking about like karma and furthermore like thoughts of like so many things in my life that were poetically metaphoric. I already know that you know some examples from your own life of like, I wanted this to happen, but it happened like this instead of that. And it's almost a joke how it ended up. How many times has that happened in your life?
Dozens. It's not, no, probably more than that.
Yeah, just about everything you do.
Everything in life pretty much ends up that way.
Yeah. And you can look back and you'll be like, I can't, that's actually kind of funny. It's a joke. And so he then pointed out my previous nihilism, and this is where it really hit. So before, my previous self, I thought that life has no meaning. And now that I'm being told that life is a joke, which can be construed as dismissive and reductive, I can easily infer that my life even has less meaning. So before, I already thought my life had no meaning, and now I'm being told my life is a joke, and so it's like it has even less meaning now. And so that plays deeper into my nihilism. But there's the joke. I am being told this by God. And when you think about that joke, my pathetic life as a metaphor wrapped in an endless layering of compounded metaphors, with a creator, weaving all of these jokes together. It's a joke that has profound meaning. You get what I'm saying here?
Yeah.
So that in and of itself, my nihilism, my depression, my life, it's a joke. And the joke is not only on me, but it is on everyone I meet in life. So as that is sinking in, and I started to understand, like I told you, I was ready to pounce on God with these arguments, and he just hit me over the head with that life is a beautiful metaphor, and maybe not always beautiful, but it's always a metaphor. And a metaphor is very much like a joke. The word joke became this beautiful word. It's not a silly, stupid word anymore. Life as a joke was beautiful. It was everything. Like, that was the universe in one word: joke. And my jaw was on the freaking floor. Like, when he was done making that argument, I put my little smarmy bullshit, repartee that I was about to launch on him, and I put it right in my back pocket, and I was like, wow. I could not speak. I was like, wow. And then it followed up. It said, by the way, I will have you know that I've been pulling little pranks on you your whole life. Now, and I was like, what do you mean? And then it reminded me of a phenomenon that has happened my whole life. And you probably remember this from the core. Yep. Yes. So it told me, it goes, I have been pulling these little pranks on you your whole life. Like, every time you look at a clock, it's 11:11, 2:22, 3:33. And there's these moments in my life where something amazing happens and you feel like this cosmic connection. Even before I believed in God, I still had these cosmic feelings of like things coinciding. And then I would look at a clock and it would be 11:11. I was like, damn. But it would happen a lot. So this is what I'm telling you, dude. The shit is real. And God said, I've been playing these little jokes on you your entire life, trying to get you to notice me, and you haven't made the connection. And I was like, oh shit. And I was like, okay, well, you got my attention now, right? So as that is sinking in, that my life is a joke, everything is a joke, the universe, everything's a joke, and that God has been playing little jokes on me my whole life, trying to get me to acknowledge his existence and open up a line of communication, a thought dawned on me. And it was less of a thought dawning on me and more of a thought being implanted in me directly from God. And the thought was a realization. It was a realization that everything that happened in my life, everything to the tiniest little detail, was carefully planned out and orchestrated so that it would lead up to this moment right now. Furthermore, everything that ever happened in the universe conspired for this moment right now. My mind is blown at this point, completely blown. My skull is about to explode with this thought, and it hurt. It hurt really bad. My brain was hurting, and I leaned forward in contemplation and in pain. And I'm letting it sink in. And as I lean forward, I don't know if it was my perspective shifting, but by virtue of me just leaning forward, or my figurative perspective shifting, with these new thoughts entering my head, or me squinting my eyes, or what, or all of the above. I don't know what it was, but as I leaned forward, like layers of God, I'm looking at God. As I'm leaning forward, layers of Him start dissolving as I'm moving forward, and I can see into God. I can see into God. I can see, furthermore, into its freaking brain. And what I saw there was equal parts beautiful and terrifying, but not terrifying in like a hellish way, terrifying in a cosmic horror way. Like, this is so big, this is so much beyond me that
it's a scale that is like makes you feel
just the thought can kill you. Like that's how powerful this. And so I leaned forward and I could see into its brain. Like as I'm leaning forward, every little motion of, or every little like arc second of me motioning forward, unveiled like another layer of peering into God's interior, and I looked into its brain, and what I saw there was essentially a cosmic fern. And so think of a fern that's coiled in on itself. It spirals in, and it has those leaves spiraling in. But there's always an end, right? There's an end point. There's a finite point where that fern spiral stops. This was an infinite spiral, and not only that, the leaves on this fern were these fiery orange flames. These leaves were flames, and they were all spiraling into infinity. And I instantly know, you could see them lighting up and interacting with each other. And I instantly understood without a doubt. Like, it's not that I inferred something or extrapolated something. It was, I understood instantly what it was. And what it was is every one of those little flames, those leaves of the fern, was someone's life. And what I was looking at was not leaves of a fern or even flames. They were lives, and it was everyone's life in that spiral. And it was very clear what the message was. The message was, life is a joke, and this joke is very carefully orchestrated. It's a metaphor, and it's a beautiful metaphor for your life. And by the way, your joke is folded into this spiral of everyone else's joke. Every person on this spiral has an overlapping and interlacing joke, and they can equally claim that their joke is the only joke, and except when they can notice that it interferes with someone else's joke. God is able to orchestrate and maintain an infinitesimally meticulous and perfect superset of basic, like cosmic coincidences, jokes. Everyone's joke is a part of this structure, and we're all tied into it. And our jokes are gleaning off of other people's jokes, and sometimes colliding directly with other people's jokes. And there's an overlaying superset, like I said, like all of those jokes roll up to a hierarchy of bigger jokes, like a collective joke. And then you got collectives of collectives, and it's all this big joke, and it keeps just piling and piling, and at the end of that is God. And that is what I saw, dude, leaning forward on the toilet, leaning forward and looking into its brain. That's what I saw. And that's the thought that was imparted. I didn't just think like, I wonder, let me investigate. It was a thought that was imparted into my brain. I didn't think it. It was just, this is it. Like, boom, this thought is now in your brain. It's there. Like it was deep. It was the deepest of deep. The power of that thought, being able to comprehend and think about the machinery, that's not the right word. The algorithm, I mean, you start to think of supercomputers, like being able to orchestrate something like this. And you know, people can make arguments about simulations and blah, blah, blah. Whatever. I'm not going there. I'm not even going to touch that. I'm not going to touch that. But thinking about the power to be able to pull that off was such a powerful thought in my head. It was going to explode my skull. And it kept asking. It asked, as I was grasping that thought and that concept, it kept asking, do you see now? And I couldn't respond because, again, I was still mouth agape, like just contemplating this. And it kept asking, do you see? Do you understand? Do you understand? Like as I'm like wiping away tears and picking my jaw off the floor, I say, yes, I get it now. Like how can you prove your case more than that, dude? Like how the fuck can you prove your, like I was like, I don't buy it. And it was like, oh, you don't buy it? And I was like, oh, and it showed me, dude. It freaking showed me everybody in the universe's joke wrapped up in its little cosmic fern. Alrighty, fellow journeymen and journeywomen, this is the intermission. I highly recommend you take one. Go grab a lunch, go grab a dinner, go watch a movie, go to sleep, do whatever. Take your dog for a walk. Whatever you need to do, I highly recommend approaching this next hour just at a different time. It's going to get really, really freaking heavy, okay? So do yourself a favor. Just chill out. Come approach this again. But, if you want to keep fighting through like the definition of a true journeyman, well, then I welcome you for the next hour. Get ready. Here we go. Okay, so we're let's launch back in. So get ready. Here's where it gets. This is where it gets like strap the fuck in, dude. This is gonna get. Yeah. Oh. Dude, what is about to happen is going to it. Just get ready. Just get ready. Okay. All right. So God basically kept saying like do you see now? Like do you understand? And I was like, yes. Like again, my jaw was on the floor. It just laid forth the most beautiful argument that has ever been argued in the history of the universe. And I'm like, yes, I get it. Like it's like, wow. Like, yes. And then so it basically wrapped up its synopsis by saying like, so yeah, life is a joke, but evil is no joke. And when you think about that juxtaposition of good and evil in the word joke, so think about what joke is. Like a joke is a loving, like a good joke. I'm not talking about like bad jokes that are distasteful and just like terrible, like hateful jokes. I'm talking about like wholesome good jokes. They're fun, they're lively, they're it's like the zest of life. It's the spice of life, like jokes, right? And then you think of the word evil, and it's the complete polar opposite of that word. Opposite of that, dude. And that's what it was saying. It was like, life is a joke, but evil is no joke. And it told me, and it said, I'm using your own words. You said this yourself. You said with your own mouth, you kept saying this stuff is no joke. And it was like, you better listen to me right now. Evil is no joke. And I was like, damn. And it told me, it said, hey, I told you earlier that you should not even bother trying to use your logic to understand what evil's end game is, like what its purpose is, what its mission is, right? And I was like, yeah, I remember that. And it said, well, this is when you need to use your logic right now. He goes, you need to use your logic. And this was very clear. Like there was absolutely no ambiguity on what it told me here. It said, you need to use your logic to identify, classify, and quarantine evil. And it's like, find it, like when you see it, think about it, recognize it for what it is, classify what kind of evil you're dealing with, and quarantine that shit. And I was like, huh. And here's the best part. I leaned forward, and this was an involuntary action. Like I felt myself being pulled forward, so I'm leaning forward, and then my arm comes up, and my hand goes into a fist, and comes right up underneath my chin, and I put my chin on my knee, and I go, just like that famous sculpture, The Thinking Man, right? And right when that happened, I knew instantly that it was God controlling me and playing it, bringing back that old joke of me, and I started cracking, and I was like, are you kidding me? Did you just do that? He's like, yeah. And I was like, oh my God. And I started cracking up, and it started tickling me again. It kept jabbing at me, and I got that burst of laughter from God, that those shapes and the warmth and the love. And it kept jabbing, just like I told you, dude. It was holding me down and tickling me. I was laughing so hard, and again, this was about like a minute worth of it like tickling me. And I was like, stop. I was like, you have to stop. Like I was pleading with God. I was like, I am trying to get like some catharsis out of this. I was like, you have to stop. Like, please stop tickling me. And there was a point where, right at the peak of that tickling, boom, the face of Adolf Hitler appeared in my vision, in my field of view. Unmistakable Adolf Hitler. It wasn't just like, did I see Adolf? It was, that is Adolf Hitler. I am looking at him right now, and he's looking at me. And this is one of those things, dude, like God is all about a good joke and all about a good laugh. And he'll bring you to the peak, and then he'll hit you with something that will change your life forever. And that, dude, I'm trying to muster the courage to explain what happened after that. I saw Adolf Hitler's face, clear as day, and I knew I saw it, but I still asked God. Even though I knew what I saw, I said, was that just Adolf Hitler? And it was like, you know it was. And I go, yeah. And I said, please explain to me why in the midst of this, you decided to show me the face of the most evil, wretched person to have ever lived. Why did I just see Adolf Hitler? And it told me, dude, it looked at me and it said, this is what happens when you do not identify, classify, and quarantine evil. This is what happens. I started to put two and two together, and I was like, okay, now this guy obviously was an evil, wretched person, and his initial channel of whatever it was that started his evil, that initial like seemingly innocent channel of that led to 85 million people dead. $85 fucking million people dead. They're not coming back. And an entire continent enslaved. And I need to peer into my notes here, because this is when it starts to get very important. Hold on, I'm cracking up. The Nation Slayer. There's a portion of my notes right here. The title of this portion of my notes is literally called The Nation Slayer. And this really should be called The Continent Slayer, or The Human Race Slayer. So I'm just gonna read this verbatim from my notes. It said, hey, this is what happens when evil runs rampant and unchecked. The initial seemingly innocent channel can fester over time and become an all-encompassing miasma that can enslave an entire continent. And I fully understood how evil could overtake a single person, but I needed God to kind of expand a little more on how it could enslave an entire continent. I was putting the pieces together, but I was like, please, like, just tell me more. And it basically told me that evil takes the path of least resistance, and people mostly follow that path. I am very much a don't stir the pot kind of guy. Like depending on different times in my life, I can see myself like in let's say like Nazi era Germany, like kind of falling in line with just about any evil activity that the Nazis perpetrated. Like, it sounds terrible, but we are all people, and we have to survive. And if we're thrown in the mix of these global movements of masses of people that are doing this, and if you're like me, you don't want to stir the pudding, man. Like just lay low and just lay low, and it's gonna wash over, and eventually we'll come out the other side of this. So like when we think about this deeper, like as a budding man in my early 20s or whatever, late teens, early 20s, and mid 20s even, I can easily see myself swept up in like the romantic swelling of honor and pride. And I know deep down inside, like even with that swelling of honor and pride and patriotism, that I still wouldn't be swept up in that anti-Semitism and such like that, but I would probably view that as like a tolerable annoyance, especially the way that it started off. It's just like, dude, yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yep. And so let's say that's my mentality. So let's say that 10 years have passed. I'm 10 years older. I've been trying to I'm just going with the flow in Nazi Germany. And now there are horrendous atrocities, obviously, occurring that I initially did not sign up for, right? Like, that wasn't what I was about. I wasn't I tolerated the anti-Semitism, but now they're fucking killing people. I would like to think that I would stand up and do the right thing, but we all know what that would mean. Like, if I stood up and did the right thing right there, I'm dead. I would die. Not only would I die, my whole family dead. So I likely would just keep my mouth shut, right? Like, I think most people in that situation would keep their mouth shut. And so let's take it to the extreme of extremes, right? Let's say that through a series of unfortunate, like path of least resistance events, I ended up as an officer at a concentration camp. Even though I would hate every moment of that existence, and every cell in my body would be screaming, this is not right, you have to stand up against this, it's likely that I wouldn't. And there's a lot of reasons why I wouldn't. At the end of the day, you have a family to feed. You have a boss. And your boss has a boss. And your boss's boss has a boss. And all of them are trying to maximize output. And your survivability and your family's survivability depends on you falling in line, shutting up, and doing your fucking job, right? So let's imagine this now in the frame of non-Nazi era. Let's imagine that my passion in life is painting and science, okay? Now, science obviously can get you some good money if you made that into a job. But let's say that I'm terrible at math, right? So I love science, but I've been too afraid of it. I'm too scared to apply myself enough in math to go there. I'm playing it safe. I'm doing the path of least resistance. Being a painter and trying to make a living as a painter, same difference. That's a tough racket, man. Like you've got to be lucky as a painter. So I say fuck it. I'm going to college instead, and I get a major. Let's say that I land in marketing, which I hate. It's the path of least resistance. Pick an easy major. You know, science is a hard major. You're gonna have to buckle down and learn math. You know, so screw it. Pick marketing. So I pick. And by the way, no offense to the marketers out there. I'm not saying your job is easy or whatever, but I'm gonna pick marketing, but I hate every bit of marketing. Hate it. And let's say that because I hate marketing, my confidence is down. I don't land a good marketing job out of college. Let's say that I land in a company that makes cardboard, right? Cardboard boxes. And let's say that the CEO of this cardboard box company is like, we are going to make a marketing campaign that is going to make cardboard boxes cool. We're going to, he looks to his head of marketing, and he says, you are in charge of making America think that cardboard boxes are cool. And that guy's like, okay, my job depends on me making this happen. So I'm going to make the guy below me, his life is, dude, your job, let's make it cool. You know, and then it goes downhill, and then it lands on you. And now your job is to make cardboard boxes that aren't cool at all. No way could you approach a cardboard box in any place in history, any time, anywhere in the universe and be like, that's cool as hell, man. Kids are going to be excited about that. But you have to make a friggin' social media campaign to make it cool. And guess what? In your heart, you already know that's a dead end. That's not going to work. It's dead end. No one's going to ever think it's cool. But you got to do it. You have to do it. You have to do it. It's your job. And your boss is depending on you, and his boss is depending on him. Like, there's this higher, you get what I'm saying here. I think that anyone listening to this right now, if you are honest with yourself, and you better be honest with yourself, man, because this is stuff that we need to think about and we need to discuss and analyze in ourselves. You could easily be a freaking concentration camp officer. I can't believe these words are going to come out of my mouth. Killing people, dude. Killing people.
I agree with you. I mean, that you can think about like there's a whole like bunch of Nazi people. Like, the difference between them and Nazis and Nazis in Germany or Mexico.
Yeah. Yep.
There's nothing different about them. It's that evil got in there.
Yep.
And spread.
Yeah.
Spread.
Yep.
There's nothing different about those people.
Yeah, exactly. Evil is an opportunist. If we are being honest with ourselves, and people, listen to me. If you are not honest with yourself, like, you can play make believe all day long about you being like this awesome power of positive thinking and blah blah blah. Our lives, y'all, as Americans, I hate to say this, is easy and awesome and fun and amazing for the most part. Now, there's people out there suffering or whatever, but guys, imagine yourself in Nazi Germany as a citizen of Germany. What do you do? What do you do? Do you fall in line? Play it safe? Or do you become a Nazi? Do you stand up and in your family, you're dead, your family's dead? What do you do? So y'all, I'm trying to push this point through for a very particular reason, because, like, seriously, if you think that you're any different than any of those motherfuckers in Germany at that time, you are wrong. Like we are all people. You are the exact same kind of person that anyone would be from 200,000 years ago when humans were first dragging our knuckles across the friggin' savannah.
So this is what you are from that?
Yeah, and so I guess like the point I'm trying to ram home here is that it was very clear to me that evil is an opportunist. It's a sleazy opportunist. It will take what it can get. Like if you're not dedicated to the cause, but you're swept up in it, it's like, okay, cool, whatever. This is happening. You know, like, come on aboard. You know, it doesn't give a shit. So evil is perfectly happy, like ecstatic, with easily, like, you know, overrunning the nationalist, like, intransigent myrmidons, and is merely like just content with, you know, partial buy-in or even like silent protest of the non-believers, just so long as evil is being done. That is how you enslave an entire continent. And the more I started to grasp the nature of evil, it's really weird. The room started getting darker and more ominous. Like, God was still bright, and I could see God in the foreground or whatever, like in my direct field of vision. And then everything around it started getting very dark and sinister and sickening. Like, I felt myself literally becoming sick as I was trying to contemplate evil. And then God threw out a number at me. And this number, by the way, is only military deaths in World War II. Only military. 60 million people. 60 fucking million people. And then the estimate is anywhere, like, total deaths in the whole human struggle, military and non-military, would be anywhere from 70 to 85 million. 85 million people, dude. And it, like guys, people listening to my voice right now, let that sink in. Think about this for 1 second. Looking as an adolescent boy, looking and seeing a gorgeous woman that has a nice ass and being like, oh, that's a nice ass. That little moment right there, extrapolated over time, 85 million people dead. Now, the human brain can't even comprehend a number like that. It can't. Our fingers and toes, right? That's for 200,000 years. By the way, that's a big number too. 200,000 is a big number. It's a big number. That's how long that humans have been stomping around on the planet. Now, if we want to talk about our evolutionary ancestors, we're talking 2 million years, right? That 2 million. Versus, so I have a number in my hand, in my left hand. That number is 2. In my right hand, I have 85. 2 million versus 85 million fucking people, y'all. Like, when I say that evil is no joke, you had better believe me. And don't believe me, believe God. And I'm sorry that I'm sorry that you're caught up in this rant right now, dude. I really am. I really want to say this, dude. Like, I need to get back on track, because what I say in this what I say in my notes here is very poignant and to the point. You know, God pointed out World War II, 60 million people dead, 85 million estimated. It became very clear to me that this was a spiritual warfare event. This was not only just a regular, like, conventional warfare event. This was spiritual warfare. This was a crusade to stamp out evil. Even with, and I can hear people yelling into their iPhones or car speakers right now, just yelling and saying, like, Americans in the 40s, they were racist, and yes. We had our flaws. We have the most blemishes that you can imagine. America at the time was fucked up worse than we are today. The racism was rampant. But guys, and I know there were killings, I know there was like lynchings and stuff like that, but guys, we were not committing wholesale genocide, okay? Let's make that clear. Yeah, good point. Good point. See, but that's the thing, y'all. With all of our faults, with all of our racism, with all of our, alcoholism and abuse and like women, domination of women and all this, like, you can go down the list of all the bad things, but guys, we weren't wholesale assembly line style extermination of people. There is a big difference, and it became very clear to me that America and the Russians were probably the biggest part of winning World War II. America and Russia and all basically the Allies, with all of their faults, had to go in and stamp out that evil. It was a crusade. It literally was a crusade. So at that moment, when I started contemplating that concept of 85 million, 60 million, it doesn't matter at this point. Let's just say 60 million. We'll just keep going with 60 million because that's the confirmed military death number. When I started contemplating that 60 million number and the concept of spiritual warfare, the wall in front of me that I was looking at, I was like, God was over to the left, and then right in front of me was the wall of the restroom. There formed like this giant chasm, like a trench, canyon, or whatever you want to call it, like just this big trench, and the walls of this trench it wasn't rocks or dirt, it was human bodies. It was like just a huge canyon of dead human bodies. And at the very bottom of that trench was that same evil dark cloud. And these bodies were kind of falling into that void. It was basically consuming human lives, like just wholesale, like millions of bodies. And when I say bodies, I'm saying like men, women, children. Like I'm seeing like children, like hacked to pieces, falling into this evil dark cloud. And so I basically, in that moment, guys, felt the full brunt of what evil was in that moment. And I'm saying these horribly disgusting words and descriptives about what I saw, but guys, it does not encompass what I felt and what I truly saw, and what I truly felt. There aren't words. Like dude, I cannot describe, just like I told you, I can't describe what I saw in God. I cannot describe how evil and how disgusting and how wretched, and it was the most fucked up thing that I've ever seen in my entire life and ever wished to see. You instantly knew what World War II was about. Like you're like all this, Hitler and taking over these countries and like that's a sideshow, dude. That is a sideshow. Like World War II was about stamping out that fucking evil, and so like I said, I can't find the words to describe it. I'm gonna try to find a few words to describe it. This is the best that I can do. Like horrid, gruesome, grotesque, vile is another word. But these are just words. Multiply these words that I'm saying by several million. Fuck it. Multiply those words by 85 million. Okay? 85 million. The closest thing that I can think of to describe what it feels like is a story. There's an absolutely terrifying story that I heard about a cartel, a drug cartel, like Mexican drug cartel, like torture, murder situation. There was this drug cartel that was trying to groom their young hitman. He was like a 13-year-old kid that they were training to be a sicario, like a hitman, and they were trying to show him the brutality and get him used to the brutality. And they had found and kidnapped these two brothers. And dude, I know this is gonna hit home for you big time. They found these two brothers from a rival cartel. They kidnapped them. They brought them back to their safe space, their ranch or whatever, and they tortured the shit out of these brothers. Brutal torture in front of a 13-year-old kid for about that is something like 3-4 days, right? Brutal tortures, like ripping out toenails and beating them with baseball bats, breaking their arms and legs, so on and so forth, like just brutal torture. And at the height of the torture, they look at the brothers and they say, one of you can walk out of here alive. One of you can walk out. The only way that one of you is going to be able to walk out is if you both decide right now, one of you has to kill the other one. And the one, of course, that isn't killed, that person, you can walk out of here alive. Think about the fucking discussion, dude. Think about the horror. Think about the fucking discussion that you would have with your brother, dude. Dude, who's gonna say kill me? You know, who's gonna say kill me, dude? Both of you would say that, you know? And they decide, and this is in front of a 13-year-old kid to try to harden him up. And these two brothers, they had a discussion, they had a deliberation, and one said, yeah, dude, it's got to be me. And they decided. And I don't remember the full story. I don't remember if surely they wouldn't have given him a gun. It may have been a knife. I don't know. But one of the brothers killed the other dude. And then they didn't even go back. They didn't even say, they didn't even honor their word. They still killed the other fucking brother after he killed his brother. That is tickling the surface of that concept right there, is tickling the surface of the miserable, terrifying horror that I felt looking evil in the face. That's tickling the surface. Now, another thing that you want to, if you want to try to, and this is a little bit more pertinent to the subject matter, there is a movie online. It's on Venmo. It's called Night and Fog. Everybody listening to my voice right now, you had better go and watch that movie, Night and Fog. It's a French film that came out in 1955 about when the Allies had discovered the concentration camps and they saw the atrocities, and they came in with cameras. A film crew came in with the cameras and they documented what happened. Have you seen this movie? Dude, earth-moving equipment. Literally bulldozing hundreds of emaciated dead. We're talking men, women, children, old people, emaciated, hundreds being bulldozed. Like, dude, there wasn't enough people to go and clean up this mess. They had to bring in earth-moving equipment, dude. Watching several dozen bodies being bulldozed, that is an experience that, honestly, guys, it sounds, and it is disgusting. It's the most horrifying, terrifying thing you'll ever see in your entire life. But you guys, you need to go and watch it. You need to watch it. Like that.
I've seen some of that video from the Holocaust Museum in D.C.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
So those two things that I just explained to you, the brothers one killing the other one, and they went ahead and killed the other brother anyway, and the hundreds of bodies being bulldozed, that is a taste of what I felt, what I experienced, of looking evil in the face and understanding what it was. And I knew exactly what had to be done. It was a spiritual war, the largest in history, and the Allies were compelled, faults and all, to stamp out that evil, even if they didn't know the extent of the evil. And right about then, like God pointed out, I had watched this. I don't know if you've ever seen the PBS Ken Burns documentary called The War, about World War II. You seen that?
Yeah, I don't know if I've seen all the episodes, but yeah, I've seen it.
There is, I think it's the last episode, dude. To me, this one story that this guy tells symbolizes the entire struggle perfectly. And it basically goes like this. Like, he was like, yeah, this guy, you talk about a badass, dude. This guy was in D-Day and then D-Day plus, survived D-Day like a badass, stormed through France and into Germany like a badass. And he was told, by FDR himself, like, we are on this generation's like crusade. I forget the exact words that they use, but it's like, and he said in his interview, he's like, we didn't think much about that, like we heard about the atrocities, like some of the atrocities, but he was like, I thought that was just like propaganda, like to just get us amped up and like, and he goes, dude, and you're talking about a guy that went through D-Day. And he's talking about D-Day. They'd been interviewing this guy through the entire series, and he wasn't breaking a sweat. And he started talking about it. He goes, we didn't understand the atrocities to their full extent until we got into Germany and we saw the first concentration camp. And dude, this rock of a man, 65 years after the fact, could not speak about what he saw, dude. Like, he broke down. He was just withered, like he was like a little child crying, trying to explain what he saw. And this is the most, like, he was talking about what they did whenever they came into the concentration camps, and they saw how terrible everything was, like the hundreds, the thousands of bodies and stuff. And when I talk about like the path of least resistance, the German people were in there in their comfortable houses, chilling out, while the stench of burning corpses was wafting through their streets and into their noses, not doing a fucking thing about it. The American soldier came into that town, and they made the German people, any able-bodied man, woman, got them out of their comfortable houses, and they made them bury the dead. To me, that symbolizes the struggle. Think about how beautiful, it's not the right word, dude. I don't know what the word is, but think about how perfect of a symbol that is for that whole struggle. They got those motherfuckers out of their house, out of their comfortable houses, and they made them bury the dead. They buried that evil in the ground. There's not enough earth to be piled on that evil, dude. Based on what I saw, you keep piling the entire earth on that shit. So, guys, I'm getting emotional here. I'm sorry, but I really got to say, anyone out there that may be listening to me that has anti-Semitic, Naziistic, whatever the word is, any kind of tendencies in that regard, you go fuck off right back to hell from whence you came. You take that shit right back to hell. You do. I'm sorry. Okay. Fuck you. Okay. 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 Do you understand? Like, I'm sorry, I'm getting too emotional, dude.
Yeah, it's just like, I can't imagine what you saw and felt.
Yeah.
During that time,
dude, it sounds
like it'd be fucking horrible.
So, So right about that time, as I'm taking this all in, dude, and you understand, anyone listening to me, if you're not affected by this, like you need to check your fucking pulse. Like seriously, like in this moment when I'm seeing and witnessing this, I look up at God, because I'm looking down into that chasm. Remember, these bodies are falling into this black mass, the same black mass cloud or whatever that tried to swallow me up and seduce me sexually in the room. The exact same cloud. And I'm looking at this thing, and I'm this message is sinking home. 85 million people, and I look up at God and I say, as if he didn't know. It was one of those things where you say it more to yourself. I looked up at God and I said, you know how deep this is, right? Like you realize how deep this is. And God was looking at me, kind of shaking his head, just like, yep. And I was like, this is deep. And he was like, yes, it is. And the word deep doesn't even begin to describe, y'all. Doesn't even begin. And so it was more of like a statement to myself. It was like, wake up. So in that moment, as I'm looking at God and I'm saying like you understand how deep this is, and he's like, yes. He made it very clear to me, very clear, that the exact same evil that happens in our daily lives, like the innocuous evil, it's like the less threatening, like that girl's ass is hot, this beer tastes great, I got a big thrill out of winning, $200 to $500 in poker today or whatever, like that same evil is the very same evil that conquers continents and brutally kills 85 million people. And so I like at that moment I started to get pissed off, because I was like, seeing something so horrid, you want to fight it. And I was like, and the fact that it takes advantage of people, dude, it snakes its way in and takes advantage of poor, like people that they didn't sign up for this. They didn't sign up for spiritual warfare. They're just trying to get by, dude. And you have a little bit of a you're down on your luck. Maybe you have like a genetic predisposition to some kind of mental issue or whatever. Evil's gonna come in. It's an opportunist, and it's gonna fuck you up. And when I saw that, I was like, I got pissed off, man. I was like, and like a few trips before this on ayahuasca, when God like grabbed my hands and raised them up and said, you're a boxer, you're going to be using these on the other side. I noticed myself raising my fist up and clenching them and getting pissed off. And at some point I started pounding onto my leg. I was like, I forget what I was saying, but I was like pounding on my leg, like really hard, and being pissed off at what I was seeing, and I knew that evil had its hooks, not only in me, but almost everyone that I knew, and in my family. Like this was the answer that I've been searching for. It's like, why do I have a predisposition for these kind of tendencies and behaviors and stuff? And why is my family geared this way? And the answer was that evil came in and wrecked us. I mean, when you saw the stuff that I saw, and when you experienced what I experienced, you saw evil for what it was, and then you realize that it has its disgusting meat hooks in all of us, and it's trying to bring us all down. But personally, for me, it's trying to bring my family down. So I'll never forget this, clenching my hands and slamming my hands into my knee, like hard, and repeating, I am not going to let it wreck my family. And I gotta take a breath. Sorry. I said that word, or that sentence, over and over. I am not gonna let it wreck my family. And it started to really. Hold on.
It's powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. I was like, I am not going to let it wreck my family. And I said that over and over and over. And I'm crying. I'm bawling at this point. Just bawling. I'm not going to let it wreck my family. And before this trip, I had gone on a Game of Thrones binge. And I remember talking to my girlfriend and saying, like, the writing on this show is so great. And I kept pointing out these beautiful metaphors in the show of, like, this is so, the writing is so good. Like, there's this moment where Daenerys is so proud of her dragons. Her dragons are the thing that gave her power, that gave her legitimacy and made her a queen. These dragons gave her power. And there was a scene where one of the farmers of the place that she had recently, like, kind of conquered or whatever, came in, and she's trying to be a good like ruler. She's trying to be good and graceful, or whatever you want to call it. This farmer guy comes in with his dead child and said, your dragon did this. And Daenerys has, as a leader, to become a better leader, she has to go and chain up her dragons. And she was known as the breaker of chains, like the person who freed the slaves, right? And now she has to go in and take the very thing that gave her power and put chains on it and lock it away like a slave. And I remember saying, when that scene happened, I looked at my girlfriend and was like, this is some good writing. Like, I'm a sucker for good writing. And God, while I'm contemplating this and I'm slamming my hands on my knee and I'm saying, I'm not going to let this wreck my family. God said, hey, you like good writing, right? And I said, yes, I do. Of course I do. And it said, how's this for good writing? It said, life's a joke, right? And I was like, yeah. And evil's no joke, right? And I was like, yeah. And it said, how do you think that you're regarded in your family? And I instantly knew exactly what he was going for. And I was like, yep. And I was like, yeah. I'm the joker of the family. And this is not to say that my family is mean or they look down on me in any way. I'm just a weird guy. I'm a weird guy. I'm scatterbrained. I'm a wreck, dude. But people love me. I'm a joker. I love to have fun and all this stuff. And I really don't, in a lot of ways, don't have my shit together. And my family kind of looks at me as like the jester, and I even look at myself like that. Like, I'm the jester. I'm the joker of the family. People need to watch out for me. Like, hey, how's he doing? Like, is everything okay? We need to watch out for him. You know, I've made some bad choices in my life, man, and I've been locked in for 8 years on something that I couldn't get out of. I've made some bad choices. Like, you need to watch out. I'm the joker of the family. And God told me, he said, how amazing is it that the joker of the family is going to be the one that saves the family? He said, how is that for good writing? And I started bawling uncontrollably. It was like, you're going to save your family. The joker life is a joke. You're the joker, and you're going to save the family. And at that moment, when it said that was its last little point. And it kind of like locked eyes with me one last time to make sure that I understood. And then it kind of dissolved away. It retreated out of the restroom, and that beautiful rainbow fabric that was on everything kind of just went away with it. And there I was sitting and trying to figure out, what do you do with the rest of your life? You know? So still have my pants around my ankles. What do you do with the rest of your life after hearing that? After seeing and hearing that? That's what I like. From that moment on, for the rest of my life, that was a pivot point in my life where, as of this moment, I am a different person. I have a completely different outlook on everything. What do I do now? Whew. Yeah. That was trip 5.
Goodness.
Can you believe that shit? Now,
Insane.
now here's the best part about this, dude. The joke is so freaking funny. The most direct path to God, to where you can have a conversation like what I did with God, is ayahuasca, right? Mm-hmm. And the most prominent side effect of ayahuasca is shitting yourself to death. Y'all, how great of a joke. The most direct path to God involves you shitting yourself uncontrolled. Like, what? How great of a joke is that? You cannot write better jokes than that. That is so great. It's so great. So
Funny how you start off this podcast, like the original one, talk about you don't like to talk about poop humor.
oh yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. I forgot to mention that at the beginning. Like, yeah, poop, y'all. So that's it, dude. That's trip 5.
That's crazy.
So there it is, everybody. That's trip number 5 in the books. I come to you on my hands and knees, begging for your forgiveness on this one. This one was 2 hours, y'all, and it was freaking brutally intense. So I come to you on my hands and my knees, and I not only say I'm sorry for how brutal and intense it was, but I also humbly thank you for listening. If you stayed with this, and if you are inspired or taken aback in any way, I thank you. And I am truly honored to have you listening. Truly honored. Thank you. I love you all. Goodbye. See you on the next trip. There's 4 more of them, y'all.